All right, welcome back. We got our Tesla Q4 earnings, and I would say this was probably a B quarter for Tesla. I think the expectations were very low, and in my opinion, they did better than expected. This was their first quarter without the regulatory credits, and auto sales was down 10% year over year, but still came in at 17 billion for the quarter. Total revenue at 25 billion, that is down 3% year over year. Energy is still doing well, up 25% year over year, and the services segment also up 18% year over year. So those are the big growth drivers there, energy and services. And their earnings per share came in slightly above the expectation. So I think there was an expectation for them to have a big miss this quarter, and they did not. Free cash flow was also up 45% year over year for $2 billion in the quarter, and their net margin was slightly up. So those are good signs there. Let's take a look here. Other than that, this was just another quarter where they are really shifting the focus from the vehicles to their other bets: autonomy, robotaxi, energy, AI infrastructure, all those pieces, Optimus, all that. So they talked quite a bit of their other bets, and I would say they had some interesting takes, but nothing that we haven't discussed before. As far as some things that I thought were interesting from the call and the SlideShare earnings deck here, their cash did increase to $44 billion, so that's up 21% year over year. And the other big piece of news was that they are going to stop production of the Model S and the Model X. So I have it highlighted here. Their total production for the Model Y and the Model 3, it was down 3% year over year, but their other models was down 48%. And you can see that these numbers for the Model X and the Model S are already very small compared to the Model Y and the Model 3. So it's not a huge surprise to me. It was shocking at first that they were going to discontinue those models, but when you look at the numbers here, in 2025 they sold 1.6 million of the Model 3 and the Model Y and only 50,000 of the Model X and the Model S. So they're going to just slowly phase out those high-end models, and they're going to repurpose those manufacturing lines for things like Optimus and the Cybercab. So that kind of came out of nowhere, but it really just shows that they're doubling down on robotics and autonomous. So that will be the California plant where they make the Model S and the Model X. They're going to rework those manufacturing lines into other products. They did talk a little bit more about the potential for them to make their own chips in-house, with the potential of them building their own semiconductor fab, which will be very interesting. To me, it makes a lot of sense. Right now, they're taking an NVIDIA chip that is a general purpose chip, and they're using it for their processes. But if they can make a chip that is specific to how their software works and how their products work, to me, that makes a lot of sense. And they could get a lot more bang for their buck on those chips. And it'll also save them a lot of money. So that'll be a long-term project, but they did talk about that as far and as well as increasing their battery manufacturing. So when it comes to autonomous driving, they did announce a handful more cities that they're going to launch in Q1 of 2026: Dallas, Houston, Phoenix, Miami, Orlando, Tampa, and Vegas. Right now, the unsupervised is ramping up in Austin, and in San Francisco, you can take a robotaxi with a safety driver. I did travel to San Francisco last week, and I took a robotaxi ride. It was good. There was a little hiccup on the drop-off, but some of that may have been my error. I asked the car to pull over, probably when it shouldn't have. I should have let it finish out the destination. So some of that stuff will have to get worked out. But there was a ton of Waymos out there. Obviously, you see a lot of Teslas, so I couldn't tell what was a robotaxi and what wasn't. But there was a ton of Waymos around San Francisco, and it was very easy to get a robotaxi in San Francisco as well. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and it was only $5 for a $10 ride. So I know they're subsidizing the cost right now just to get people to use it and get miles. But that'll be interesting to see how fast we can ramp up the unsupervised in Austin, and then how the rollout goes in these other cities. Because Waymo is doing really, really well. No driver in those cars, and they were all over the place. So I do expect this to ramp up quickly, but you're also at the mercy of the regulators. So we'll have to wait and see how Austin goes before we can get unsupervised in these other locations. But moving in the right direction. They did also announce the production of their semi truck. So that's going to begin this year in 2026. This is the new and improved semi truck. So that looks like it'll be produced in Reno. And they also said they are working on building their their network for the semi trucks. So moving in the right direction there. Other than that, not a whole lot to update. We will get more and more updates, but this definitely feels like another quarter where they are moving away from automotive and into the other bets. And that is where we're likely to see the most increase in revenue, because it feels like we are topping out on the car sales, and it's going to be very hard to continue to compete with China. Their cars are great and their cars are cheap. So they have a manufacturing leg on the rest of the world, and also they have some subsidies coming in from the government to help their cars stay cheap. Okay, so let's take a look at the chart. So it was down 3.5% today. Not a shock. There wasn't any terrible news, but there wasn't any crazy updates to make you think this thing needs to go back up to 490. So I would expect a little bit of a lull to continue here for Tesla. We've kind of just been chopping sideways here for a handful of months, and I expect that to be the case as well until we get some substantial updates on Optimus, Cybercab, Robotaxi, the other bets. The car business is kind of a sideshow now, and now we're waiting to see the progress on those other bets. So would not surprise me again if Tesla gets below 300 and into the mid 300s. So if that's the case, so be it, but we'll have to wait and get some updates on some of these other bets. So that is it for this quarter. Not a whole lot else to report. I'll have Amazon numbers for you next week, and everyone have a great weekend. Peace out.